Hi guys, and welcome to a short review of the Schenker XMG P303 Pro, also known as the Clevo W230ST. This barebone is the basis for this little gaming laptop from Schenker. So let's take a quick look at the technical specifications. We have a 13.3 inch Full HD display here, an Intel Core i7-4702MQ with 8 cores and 2.2 GHz. We have an integrated Intel P4600 graphic cards plus an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 765 mobile with 2 GB video RAM, 16 GB of RAM, a 256 GB Samsung SSD Pro, and it weighs around 2 kilos. Let's take a quick look at the connections on this side. We have 3 USB 3 ports, 1 HDMI, 1 VGA, 1 LAN port, the power connector, and last but not least the Kensington lock. So let's flip it over to the other side, because on the back there are no connections. Here we have another USB port, but this one is only USB 2 and not USB 3. And we have a microphone jack and a headphone jack. So let's take a look at the front of the laptop. On the left side we have 4 status LEDs indicating what the laptop is currently doing. And on the right side there is an SD card reader, not visible right now, but believe me, it's there. What you also may need to know is that this device is easily upgradable. If we look underneath, you just have to remove 4 screws and then you can remove the cover. And inside the RAM or the hard disk is easily upgradable. So if you want to change the SSD or the HDD, that's no problem here. And the Bluetooth Wi-Fi module can be easily upgraded too. Or if you want, you can add a 4G modem. There is also a slot reserved for that. The battery on the back can also be removed very easily. Another great feature of this laptop is that it has 2 M.2 slots, so you are able to build a SATA RAID with 2 SSDs, and you can decide either if it should be RAID 0 or RAID 1, but I think this is only for the hardcore gamers of you. So the laptop has a good build quality with little flaws. For example, when you open it, it does not feel as stiff as it should be. Especially on the right side of the display, it makes some strange noises when open it or when pressing it. And also on the left side, it makes some noises, so it's not that good as it should be in this case. And also on the main parts of the laptop, especially on the body here on the right side, it's not as stiff as you would expect it. And I think that's not so good, and Schenker could have done better here. Besides of that, the build quality is good. This also applies to the keyboard, which is a small chiclet keyboard with backlit keys. And yeah, it's good to type, no problems here. But if you've ever typed on an Alienware gaming laptop keyboard, you will realize a huge difference between this and, for example, the Alienware keyboards. And this also applies to the general build quality. It is good, but it cannot compete with models like the Alienware 14 gaming laptop, which is on a much higher level. Especially if you take a look at the inside of this laptop, you will see that there is a much cheaper barebone as a basis compared to an Alienware device where everything looks very clean and very professional. One of the highlights of this laptop is definitely the display. It's a Full HD display, 13.3 inch, and it has very bright colors and can be read very easily. So now let's take a look at the things that are not so good with this laptop, and I have prepared 3 examples for you. First, this laptop has some really bad driver issues. The one that I want to show you now is about the Bluetooth Wi-Fi module. If you put the laptop in a low energy state, then the Bluetooth Wi-Fi module will produce constant errors. In some cases, your Wi-Fi connection may stop functioning, and then it becomes a real pain in the ass. I think XMG really needs to work on this, because this is really a driver issue that needs to be resolved very quickly. So let's take a look at the second example, and this is a really big problem, because all the drivers for this XMG laptop, as you can see here on the screenshot, are really old. You can easily download the drivers on the XMG webpage, but all of them are nearly 2 years old. Normally you would just head over to the manufacturer's page and then download newer versions, but this is not possible with this laptop. Because then, if we take a look at the Wi-Fi Bluetooth module, it will completely stop working. This also applies to the graphics section of this laptop. We have a combination of an Intel P4600 graphic cards and an NVIDIA GeForce GTX. And if you upgrade the Intel driver, then your NVIDIA GeForce card may completely disappear from the device manager. And out of my own experience, I can tell you that you will have a pretty hard time getting it back into the device manager. There is even a hotfix available from Microsoft, but in my case it didn't help that much. So in the end I had to reinstall the operating system, which is Windows 8.1 64-bit Professional here. If you take a quick look at the internet, you will see that this is a common problem and that you may run into problems every time you update your driver. And this affects both the GeForce driver and also the Intel driver. This is especially bad for gamers who need new drivers on a regular basis and normally can't live with drivers that are 2 years old. The third issue is something that I can't show you in pictures, but let me talk you through. The laptop is required to run in the UEFI BIOS mode. In the BIOS you can choose between the old legacy mode and the newer UEFI mode, and the first time I installed the laptop I used the old legacy mode. But with the old legacy mode the card reader didn't work and I had no chance to get it working. So I contacted the XMG support, which responded very quickly, and they told me, hey, that's an easy one, you just have to install Windows using the UEFI mode. So I did this, reinstalled Windows using UEFI, and the card reader worked just fine. But from my personal experience, I have to say that the overall system stability is not so good when using UEFI. I encountered less problems when using the old legacy boot mode. To sum it all up, if you want to use all the features that the laptop has, you really need to use the UEFI boot mode. And then there is another issue, but this one probably applies to all high-end gaming laptops. If you play games that are very hardware intensive, this thing here really gets loud as hell and also warm as hell. So from my point of view, you really need some headphones to play games with this laptop, and I would also advise you to use some very good in-ears, because otherwise you will still hear the noise that this thing creates. And after a while, this thing really gets very hot and can easily be used as a heater in the winter. But on the plus side, you have to say that it delivers a really great gaming performance, and due to its small size, it still counts as a portable laptop. Before I show you some pros and cons about this laptop, let's talk about the price. I bought it very cheap directly from XMG for 699 euros, which is very fair from my perspective. The normal price for this device is about 1000 euro, and I'm not so sure about this price, because on the one hand you get a very good laptop with a great performance, but on the other side it also has some flaws. And if you keep in mind that for some euros more you will also get an Alienware laptop, which is on a much higher quality level than this one. But if you have the chance to buy one of these for around 600 or 700 euro, then there's practically no alternative on the market, because you won't get any other device which offers such a great and high gaming performance at such a price. And in my case, as I bought it directly from XMG, it also had full warranty included. So finally, let's take a look at the pros and cons of the Schenker XMG P303. On the plus side, we have the very good gaming performance of this device and also the very good display with its bright colors. Also, the build quality is good and has only little flaws. Last but not least, the laptop is easily upgradable and you are able to fit your own components into it. So now let's take a look at the not so good parts of this laptop. The first thing is the bad driver support and the fact that the drivers can't be upgraded easily to a newer version. Secondly, the Wi-Fi Bluetooth module does not support the low energy state of this laptop. Then we have the very high loudness and the really high temperature when this laptop is operated under full load. And the last thing from my point of view is the UEFI support. Sure, the old legacy boot mode is outdated, but if we use UEFI, then you have to implement it right. That's it with the review of the Schenker XMG P303. If you have any questions, just ask them in the comments. I will try to reply them as good as I can. Bye.